Jared had lived alone in the wastelands for over 5 years. The land around him was dry, cracked, and full of silence. Old machines from forgotten wars lay half buried in the sand. The air was dusty, the nights cold, and the days long. But Jared didn't mind. He had built a small metal shelter from scrap, just enough to keep out the wind and wild creatures. There were no neighbors, no visitors, and no trouble. Just peace. That was all he wanted. He hunted small animals for food, gathered clean water from a purifier he fixed himself. Sometimes he spoke to himself just to hear a voice. He had a radio, but it was broken. No signals came in anyway. The cities had fallen long ago. Most humans had moved off-world or were living in the domed colonies. Jared had chosen the wild, far away from lies, politics, and aliens. But that choice was about to be tested. One night, as the winds howled outside, Jared sat by his heater, eating dried meat. Suddenly he heard it. A knock, not loud, not strong, but clear. Jared froze. No one ever came here. No one even knew this place existed except him. The knock came again, soft but urgent. He reached for his old plasma rifle, checked its charge, and moved slowly to the door. He pressed his back against the wall, heart beating harder. Then, he opened the door just a crack. She was standing there, tall, thin, wrapped in torn fabric that did little against the cold. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes large and glowing faintly in the dark. In her arms, she held a small child, wrapped tightly, shivering. Her lips trembled. As she spoke, "Please, marry me." Jared blinked, confused. "What?" he asked, gun still aimed. "Let me in, please," she said, voice shaking. "Just for tonight. I will explain, but please, don't let us freeze." Jared looked at her, then at the child. The little one wasn't moving. Just a small, quiet bundle. He hesitated, then slowly lowered the rifle and stepped aside. "Come in," he said. Alien woman stepped inside, gently, as if afraid the floor might break under her. She stood near the heater and unwrapped the child. It was breathing, barely. Jared handed her a blanket and poured hot water into a metal cup. She whispered thanks and took it with shaking hands. Jared watched her carefully. She was different from any alien he'd ever seen. Not aggressive, not proud, not like the ones in the cities who looked down on humans. She looked broken, tired, desperate. "Who are you?" he asked finally. "My name is Vila," she said. "I came from the outer ring colony of Siren." Jared narrowed his eyes. "That's far. You crossed the wastelands with a child." "I had no choice," she replied. "They were going to take us." "Take you?" he asked, confused. Vila looked down, her voice low. "On my world, when a woman loses her mate, she must either remarry quickly or be claimed by others." Jared frowned. "You mean like property?" Vila nodded slowly. "I ran. I heard humans don't do that. I heard. Some are kind." Jared sat back, rubbing his face. He wasn't used to this. He liked being alone. No people, no drama. Now an alien widow and her child were in his shelter, talking about marriage. "Why me?" he asked. "You don't even know me." "I don't want love, I want safety," she said honestly. "If I can say I am married to a human, they might leave me alone." Jared looked at the small child sleeping under the blanket. A tiny hand moved slightly. He sighed. "You're safe here for the night," he said. "But don't ask me to marry you." "Not yet," Vila nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "That's more kindness than I've seen in a long time." Outside, the wind screamed louder, but inside, the shelter felt warmer. Jared didn't know why he let her in. Maybe it was the child. Maybe it was her voice. But something told him this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. Morning came slow in the wastelands. The sun peeked through the thick clouds like a tired eye. Jared stepped outside his metal shelter with a rifle in one hand and a mug of hot water in the other. The ground was quiet, but he checked for tracks anyway. Old habit. Something about the night still bothered him. Not just the alien woman's arrival, but her words, her fear. Inside the shelter, Vila sat by the small heater. She held the child close, whispering in a language Jared didn't understand. But her face had softened now, no longer wild with fear, just tired, just sad. He came back in and placed a small bowl of food near her. She looked up quickly, surprised, then nodded. "Thank you," she said. "What's the child's name?" Jared asked, sitting on a metal crate nearby. Vila looked down at the small bundle, then spoke softly. "Her name is Alari." The child stirred slightly under the blanket, her cheeks pale, her eyes still closed. Jared took a deep breath, trying to make sense of it all. "You said you came from Siren?" he asked. Vila nodded, brushing dirt from Alari's cheek. "Yes, a mining colony, controlled by my people's royal houses." "And what happened there?" he pressed. She paused, then looked at him directly, her glowing eyes heavy with truth. "I was bonded to a soldier. We were not rich, but we were happy." Jared nodded slightly. "I lost him in the revolt 3 cycles ago," she continued. "And after that, everything changed." She pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders as she spoke. "Widows on Siren are seen as a burden," she explained. "The law says a female without a bond must remarry or be given away." "Given away?" Jared repeated, shocked. "Yes," she said quietly. "To warriors, to lords, to anyone who claims them." Jared rubbed the back of his neck. "That's barbaric." Vila gave a weak smile. "Not all of our customs are good. So you ran," he said. She nodded again. "I found a smuggler who promised to take us to human land." "Did he succeed?" "No," she said. "He betrayed me halfway and left us in the lower dunes." Jared stared at her. "You walked all the way here from the dunes?" "With my child on my back," Vila said with a whisper. "Every step." There was a pause. Jared didn't know what to say. This wasn't just a visitor. This woman had fought storms, hunger, and betrayal just to knock on his door. "I didn't plan to ask for marriage," she said suddenly. "But when I saw your face, I knew I had no time left." Jared looked at her silently. "You could have shot me," she added, "but you didn't." He stood up and poured another cup of water for her. "I don't trust people easily," Jared said, "alien or not." "I don't blame you," Vila replied, taking the cup with trembling hands. "But I'm not here to hurt you, I swear." The heater hummed quietly between them. Vila looked down at Alari again. "She hasn't eaten properly in days," she said, "but now maybe she will live." Jared's eyes fell on the small child. Thin arms, soft breathing, too quiet. He couldn't look away. Something pulled at his chest. "You said they'll come for you," Jared asked. "How soon?" Vila shook her head. "I don't know," she said. "Maybe tomorrow, maybe in a week. But they will come?" "Yes," she whispered. "They always do." Jared moved toward the storage crates, checking his tools and scanning gear. He knew this land better than anyone. If someone entered it, he would know. Still, he didn't like the idea of being hunted, especially not with a child under his roof. "You can stay," Jared said after a long silence. "For now," Vila blinked, surprised. "I don't expect anything from you," he added quickly. "But if you're honest, I'll keep you safe." Vila stood slowly and bowed her head. "Thank you, Jared," she said softly. "You don't know what this means." He nodded, then turned toward the door. "Just one rule," he said. "If I tell you to run, you run." She smiled faintly. "Deal." That night, as Vila and Alari slept close to the heater, Jared sat by the door with his rifle. The wasteland was quiet again, but not peaceful. Something had changed. He wasn't alone anymore, and deep in the distance, beyond the dead dunes, something watched from the dark, waiting. The sun had barely risen when Jared saw the tracks. He stood outside the shelter, staring at the dirt. They were fresh, not animal, not windblown, boot prints, wide and deep, heavier than human weight. Something had been watching the shelter. During the night, Jared crouched low, running a finger along the edge of the print. Too smooth, too spaced, military, maybe alien. And they were heading back into the dunes, not toward him, but away, like a scout reporting back. He returned inside quickly. Vila was already awake, gently feeding Alari warm broth. The child was still weak, but there was more color in her face now. She ate, Vela whispered, her voice carrying a hope Jared hadn't heard before. Jared didn't speak right away. He placed his rifle on the table. Eyes locked on Vila. Someone was here, he said firmly. Vila froze. She looked at him, fear rising fast. Tracks in the sand, just behind the rocks. Jared added, big ones, not human. Her hands shook, the spoon slipping from her grip. They found me, she whispered. Who exactly is they? Jared asked, walking closer. Vila held Alari tighter. They're called the Seekers, she said. Agents of the Siren Lords. They track down escaped females. Jared's jaw tightened. They send hunters after widows? Yes, Vila said, tears threatening to fall, especially if the widow is bonded to a child with high blood. What do you mean, high blood? Jared asked. Vila didn't answer at first. She looked at Alari, then back at him. My late mate was from a noble line, she said slowly. His family was powerful, wanted to use Alari for politics. And you ran to stop that? I ran so my daughter wouldn't be used like property, she said, voice shaking. Just like me. Jared sat down, staring at the small fire. He hated this. He had built this place to escape war, to escape people. Now war was coming to his doorstep. Again, because of a woman and her child who barely had strength to stand. You should leave, Jared said suddenly. Vila looked up sharply, hurt in her eyes. Not because I don't care, he added quickly, but because they'll keep coming. I live hidden for a reason. I can't go back, Vila whispered. They will take her from me. They will. I didn't say go back, Jared said. I said leave, go farther, disappear again. Vila stood slowly, her hands tightening around her daughter. I crossed burning sands to get here, she said, voice breaking. I begged you for help. I gave up my pride. And now you want me to run again? Jared didn't reply. The silence between them was sharp, painful. Then, a loud sound broke it, a high-pitched mechanical whine. Jared grabbed his rifle and rushed to the door. A small drone was hovering near the shelter, glowing red on its side. Vila screamed, pulling Alari down to the floor. Jared aimed and fired. The blast cutting through the drone's core. It fell to the ground in smoke and sparks. They know, Vila gasped. That was a marker drone. It's sent to confirm location. Jared backed away from the door, heart racing. How long before they come? Vila looked sick. Hours, maybe less. Jared stared at the woman and the child curled up by the wall. They were weak, frightened, and yet still holding on. His mind screamed at him to send them away, to survive alone, like he always had. But something in his chest tightened. He had the tools, the weapons, the traps. He wasn't helpless, maybe this time. He wasn't meant to run. You said they follow laws, Jared asked, pacing. Does your marriage request? Does it have legal power? Yes, Vila said softly, if you declare me your mate. They can't touch me or Alari. And what if I say no? Then they take us, she said, eyes wet again. And you'll be marked as a traitor for helping. Jared looked out the small window. Dust was rising far on the horizon. Too straight, too controlled. A transport ship coming fast. He turned back to Vila. I don't know how this bond thing works, he said. But if saying it saves you, then I'll say it, Vila gasped, covering her mouth. Why? Because no one should have to beg to be safe, Jared said, walking toward her. Especially not in my home. He stood before her, eyes steady. I accept, he said clearly. Vila, you are my mate now. A faint blue light glowed. Between them, Vila touched his hand, and something ancient activated within her skin. Symbols lit up on her wrist, glowing softly. It's done, she said. Tears falling now. You've claimed me. Outside. The dust cloud grew closer, but Jared didn't feel alone anymore. He had something to protect and someone to fight for. Asterisk, the sky over the wasteland was no longer calm. Dust clouds twisted in the wind as the ship approached. It wasn't large, but it was fast, military grade. Sharp-edged and deadly, Jared stood outside his shelter, staring at it through his cracked binoculars. His grip on the rifle tightened. Inside, Vila held her daughter close. Her skin glowed faintly from the bonding symbols still fresh on her wrist. She looked calm, but her eyes were full of fear. She knew what kind of men were coming. "They'll scan for your weapons first," she said, her voice low. "Then they'll ask questions." "They can ask all they want," Jared muttered. "I've got answers." He had already activated the old defense grid, buried mines, motion sensors, and auto turrets hidden in the rocks. It was all leftover tech from the last border war. No one had expected Jared to keep them working. "They won't believe the bond," she said. "Not unless they see it, feel it." Jared turned toward her. "You said the symbols on your skin confirm it." "They'll demand a ritual, a witness. Too late for that now," Jared replied. "They're almost here." The ship landed with a loud metallic roar, sand and smoke flying in every direction. Jared stood tall, rifle slung across his shoulder, calm but ready. The ramp lowered, and 3 armored figures stepped out. Their armor was dark gray with glowing green eyes, no faces visible. One of them held a scanner. Another a long baton. The leader, taller than the rest, walked straight toward Jared. "This territory is under isolation," the voice came through a filtered mask. "I live alone by law, that's allowed," Jared replied. The leader ignored him and held up the scanner. "Your signal matches one fugitive female. Species Serenian. Subject Vila." "Not a fugitive," Jared said firmly. "She's my mate now." The soldiers paused. Even through their helmets, the air shifted. The leader tilted his head. "Show proof." Vila stepped outside slowly, holding Alari in her arms. Her glowing symbols were still bright. "I accepted the bond willingly," Jared added, standing beside her. "She is under my protection." The scanner beeped, red at first, then yellow, then green. "Confirmed." "Bond recognized." The leader stared at them both, silent. "She was claimed without royal approval," one soldier said. "That is against our law." "But not against human law," Jared replied. "And this land is human territory. You will regret this, human," the leader said, stepping closer. "You've interfered with matters beyond your kind." Jared smiled slightly. "I'm getting used to that." Suddenly, a second ship appeared in the sky. Sleek, silver, marked with different symbols, nobility marks. It hovered above the wasteland, then dropped a long banner down. Vila gasped. "That's House Raisin," she whispered. "My mate's old family." The second ship didn't land. It only scanned the area, saw the bond confirmation, and turned back toward the stars. A silent message. They had seen the Union, and now it was too late to take her without starting a war. The first soldiers looked uncertain. Their orders didn't cover this. "Return," the leader said to his team. "She's marked. The bond is official." They turned and marched back to their ship without another word. In seconds, the engines roared again and vanished into the sky. The silence afterward was heavy. Only the wind moved across the sand. Jared lowered his rifle and turned to Vila. She was trembling, not from fear, but from relief. "They're gone," she whispered. "It worked," Jared nodded. "You're safe now, both of you." Vila looked up at him, her eyes wide. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. "Maybe," Jared said. "But I couldn't let them take you." She placed her hand over the glowing bond marks on her wrist. "You saved my life." He shook his head. "No, I just made a choice." "Then let me stay," she said. "Not just as your fake mate, but as your real one." Jared didn't answer right away. He looked at Alari, sleeping peacefully for the first time. Then at Vila, whose strength had returned in her voice. He saw not a burden but a future. "You can stay," he said quietly. "This is your home now too." Vila smiled, a real smile. For the first time in years, she felt safe. And for the first time in his life, Jared didn't feel alone. But far beyond the stars, not everyone was pleased. A human bonding with a noble-blooded, Serenian female was more than just survival, it was rebellion, and rebellion never goes unnoticed. The calm after the soldiers left didn't last long. Jared knew it wouldn't. He had seen the second ship, the one from House Razan. They hadn't spoken, hadn't attacked, but their message was clear. They saw everything, and now they were watching. Vila stayed close to Ilari, keeping the child warm and fed. Her body was still weak, but her spirit had grown stronger. She no longer hid behind silence. She helped Jared repair the damaged sensors and walked the perimeter with him each evening. They were no longer strangers, they were family. But trouble was on its way, and it didn't knock this time. It began with a sound, not from the sky, but from the earth, a low rumble like metal grinding against rock. Jared jumped from his seat and ran to the window. The horizon was shaking. A dust storm, but moving too fast, too direct. "Get down!" he shouted, pulling Vila and Ilari to the floor. Just as he did, a blast struck the side of the shelter. The wall bent inward with a groan, smoke rising from the impact. "They're attacking!" Vila cried, shielding her daughter. Jared grabbed his rifle and activated the emergency lockdown switch. Metal plates dropped over the windows. Shields flickered to life across the roof. "We have to move now," he shouted. He pushed open the back hatch that led underground, a tunnel he had built long ago for emergencies. "Go, take Ilari, don't look back," Jared said, handing Vila a small flashlight and food pack. "What about you?" she asked. "I'll buy time. I'll meet you at the cave exit," he replied. She wanted to argue, but she saw the fire in his eyes. This was his land, his home, and no one would take it without a fight. Vila disappeared into the tunnel with Ilari in her arms. Jared turned and loaded his rifle. His traps were still active, he just needed to trigger them. The storm reached the camp like a wave of metal. 4 large assault walkers stomped forward, each manned by masked mercenaries, not soldiers, hunters, paid by the house that had once claimed Vila's child. They weren't here for questions. They were here to destroy. Jared fired first, striking the sensor eye of the lead walker. It staggered, then triggered a mine below. The explosion rocked the ground, sending sand and fire into the sky. But the others kept coming. He ran from cover to cover, dodging plasma bolts, his heart pounding. Each shot he fired was measured, clean. He wasn't a soldier anymore, but his instincts had never left. One hunter got close, too close. Jared waited behind a pile of metal sheets. When the hunter passed, Jared lunged with a blade and took him down silently. But there were too many. The shelter began to break under their fire. The door melted. The roof cracked. Jared knew he couldn't hold them off forever, but he didn't need to. He just needed to lead them away. He grabbed his old power core, unstable, dangerous, and exactly what he needed. He sprinted into the open, holding it high. The hunters turned to him, weapons aimed. "Looking for someone?" Jared shouted, "Come get me." He ran, dodging fire, leading them away from the tunnel exit. They followed, unaware that Vila and Ilari were already far from the camp. Jared reached the ridge, dropped the core into a pit, and dove for cover. The explosion lit the sky, a wave of heat rushing outward. One of the walkers flew sideways, crashing into the rocks. Silence followed, broken only by the crackle of fire. Jared lay still, dust covering his body. Pain shot through his leg, but he smiled. He had done it. He had saved them. Hours later, Vila reached the cave exit. She looked back, waiting, hoping. Then she saw him limping, covered in dirt, but alive. He collapsed near the edge, and she ran to him. "You came back," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "I said I would," Jared replied with a weak smile. Vila helped him inside. Ilari reached out her small hand and touched Jared's cheek. For the first time she smiled. They had lost their home, but not each other. The bond that began as survival had turned into something deeper, something stronger. But the war wasn't over. The House of Razan had failed to capture Vila and Ilari. Now they would return with more power, more fury, and Jared would be ready. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was a fight for their future. Asterisk, the cave was cold, but it was safe. For now the sounds of battle were far behind them. Vila kept a small fire burning near the wall. Ilari slept curled up beside her mother, wrapped in blankets Jared had packed before the attack. Jared leaned back against a rock, his leg wrapped in cloth, his body aching but alive. They hadn't spoken much since they escaped the ruined shelter. The silence wasn't awkward, it was heavy, full of questions. Jared had seen the way the hunters moved, how determined they were. This wasn't just about a runaway widow. This was about something more. "You're not telling me everything," Jared finally said. Vila didn't look at him right away. She stared into the fire, her fingers gently brushing her daughter's hair. "I didn't lie to you," she said softly. "But I didn't say it all either." "Then say it now," Jared said, voice calm but firm. "We're in this together. I risked everything for you. I deserve the truth." Vila took a deep breath, then turned toward him. "I was never supposed to be a wife," she said. "I was born into House Seraph, one of the ruling bloodlines on Siren." Jared frowned. "You're a noble?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, but I was hidden away." "Why?" "My mother died giving birth to me," Vila began. "And my father, he was powerful, feared, but cruel. He didn't want a daughter." "No," she whispered. "He feared me." Jared raised an eyebrow. "Why fear his own child?" Vila touched the glowing mark still faintly shining on her wrist. "Because of what I carry in my blood, a rare energy sought after. Dangerous, some call it royal flame." Jared looked confused. "Never heard of that." "You wouldn't." She replied, "It's kept secret among the houses, passed only through daughters. It gives us power strength, sometimes healing, sometimes visions." "And Ilari?" he asked. "She has it too," Vila said. "Even stronger than me." Jared sat back, trying to take it all in. "So your own father hid you to protect his power?" "Yes," she whispered. "And when he died, the other houses wanted me gone. They tried to marry me off, control me, use me. That's when I ran." She looked down, eyes full of pain. "I thought I found safety when I bonded with a soldier, a kind man. We loved each other, but when he died, they came again, because of Ilari?" Vila nodded. "She's the key to the bloodline now," she said. "And they want her, to use her as a symbol, or worse, as a weapon." Jared felt his heart sink. All this time, he thought he was helping a widow survive. Now he realized he was guarding the heir to a dying royal line. "Why didn't you tell me before?" he asked quietly. "Because I didn't trust you," Vila said honestly. "I thought you would sell me, turn me in. And now? Now you've risked your life, your home, and everything for me," she said, eyes shining. "Now I trust you more than I trust myself." The fire crackled between them. Jared looked at Ilari, sleeping peacefully, unaware of the world chasing her. "She's just a child," he said. "They want to turn her into a tool." "Yes," Vila whispered. "That's why I can't let them win." Jared thought for a long moment. "We can't stay here," he finally said. "They'll search the cave soon, and your father's enemies won't give up." "Then what do we do?" Vila asked, her voice trembling. "We go to the free colonies," Jared replied. "There's a council, they're mixed races. They protect refugees, maybe even you. But they don't know me," she said. "They'll know me," Jared said, with confidence. "I served with them once. They owe me." Vila looked at him with wide eyes. You were a soldier?" "Long time ago," he said. "Before I became a ghost in the desert." She smiled, the first real smile since the attack. "Then we go together," Jared nodded. "But we move at dawn," he added, "and we go quietly." He stood, limping but steady. Vila helped him sit near Ilari. As he settled in, Vila placed her hand over his. "You didn't just save me," she whispered. "You gave my daughter a future." Jared looked at her. "No," he said. "We gave each other one." Outside, the wind howled through the canyon. Far in the distance, scanners blinked silently, searching. But the fire in that cave was strong, and in that fire burned a secret, a bond and a promise, the house of Sereth. Thought they had buried her, but their forgotten daughter had risen again, and this time she wasn't alone. The stars above the canyon were bright. Jared had never noticed them before. Maybe he had been too busy surviving, or maybe he had never had someone to look up at them with. Now, as he held Ilari gently in his arms and Vila walked beside him, the stars felt different. They felt like a promise. It had been 3 days since they left the cave. 3 days of quiet movement through shadowed paths, old tunnels, and dry riverbeds. Jared knew the land like the back of his hand. He led Vila and her daughter safely through every turn, every danger, every silent mile. On the 4th day, they reached the edge of the free colonies. Tall spires of steel and stone rose beyond the rocky cliffs. Solar shields glowed above the settlements, and drones hovered in the air, scanning for threats. It was a place of peace, but only if you were. "Welcome. We're close," Jared said, adjusting the weight of his pack. Vila looked nervous. "Will they believe us?" "They'll believe me," he said. "And if they don't, I'll make them." They reached the border checkpoint at dawn, an old outpost guarded by both human and alien officials. Jared stepped forward and showed a worn metal badge, something he had kept buried for years. One of the guards scanned it, paused, then straightened up quickly. "Commander Jared Kane," the guard said, surprised. "We thought you were dead." "I was," Jared said calmly. "Now I need help." The guards led them in quickly. No questions asked. Inside the colony walls, everything felt alive. Clean air, working lights, smiling faces. Vila looked around, eyes wide. "I've never seen anything like this," she whispered. Ilari peeked out from her mother's arms, curious, no longer afraid. Jared brought them to the central building. There, a group of leaders sat: a human, a gray-skinned trader, a bird-like historian, and a tall woman from the Mars Council. They all stared as Jared entered. "Why have you returned?" the woman asked. "I need protection for them," Jared said, stepping aside so they could see Vila and Ilari. "She carries royal blood, hunted by her own people, and her child could bring war or peace depending on who holds her." The council members whispered among themselves. "And why should we take this risk?" the gray trader asked. "Because I took the risk first," Jared replied. "Because I gave my word to protect them, and I don't break my word." Silence fell. Then the human counselor stood. "If Jared Kane says they are worth protecting, that's enough for me." The others nodded slowly, one by one. Vila bowed her head, tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're safe now," Jared said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Really safe." Weeks passed. Vila and Ilari were given a small home. Simple but warm. Ilari started laughing more, her cheeks full, her eyes bright. She played with other children, her strange powers controlled and gentle. The colony welcomed her as one of their own. Jared stayed close, helping with defense planning, hunting, and teaching local fighters. But every evening, he came back to Vila and Ilari. He had once feared people, feared connection. Now he couldn't imagine life without them. One evening, Vila walked up to him as he fixed a solar panel. She placed something in his hand. It was a ring, silver, with a glowing blue gem, shaped in the old Serenian style. "I had it made," she said quietly. "It's not part of any law or survival ritual." Jared looked at it, confused. "Then what is it for?" "For us," she said, smiling. "For real this time." Jared took a deep breath, then slid the ring on. "You sure?" "I've never been more sure," Vila replied, taking his hand. Behind them, Ilari played in the field with other children. She laughed freely, no fear in her voice, and above them, the stars shined down once again. Far away, the houses of Siren still plotted, still sent hunters, still whispered in shadowed halls, but none of them dared enter the free colonies again. Not after what Jared Kane had done. And so, in a place born from dust and danger, a strange new family was formed. Not by blood, not by duty, but by choice. A human who had nothing left. An alien widow who was never meant to survive. And a little girl who would one day change the galaxy. Together, they had faced war, hunger, betrayal, and death. Together, they had created something stronger than any bond the old world ever knew. They had created a home.